Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Mike Vogiatzakis Show. Real talk, real action. I'm Brad Wilder. It's great to be back here today. We are from the heart of Winnipeg, is right. We've got a lot to get to today. We're diving into topics that touch people's hearts across Manitoba, from violence to crime to drugs, mental health, homelessness. Now, these aren't just statistics. They're stories that impact families, friends, and our entire community. We'll get to all of that. It's all coming up right here with Mike Vogiatzakis after this. All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. We're grinding it out here. It's been a long day putting all the logos in place and all the texting and getting everything working. And at this point in time, I'm not sure we're even live yet. Mike, to be honest with you, I've got to try to figure that all out here in just a minute. Probably going to let you kind of take things from here. We've got a lot to talk about. You know, these are conversations we need to have, not just talk. The problems that we face here in Winnipeg and Manitoba are over the top sometimes, and we've got to find some real solutions, and that's something that I think is coming up. Mike, do you want to say hi to some people tonight?
Oh yeah, let's say hi to some people, and maybe we'll ask the people out there, can you hear us? Can you see us? Are we live? Like Brad said, we're making some changes. It's a new show, and we can see the comments, and going to say hi to some people here this evening before we get started. Steve Bage, first one on the show tonight. Steve, he says, good evening, everyone. And then there's Kathy, tickle, back on the show again. Hi, everyone. Evening, Mike and Brad. Debbie, evening, everyone. And then there's Randy. Good evening, Mike, Brad, Randy from Toulon, Manitoba, all the way from Toulon, Manitoba. Brad's just down in the background getting some things fixed up, but just want to let you know, this is a brand new show. Ask the Funeral Director has been temporarily being put on hold. Doesn't mean that we're not going to bring it back once in a while to share some of those funeral director stories that you love and that you've listened to for a number of years. When we get into the Mike Vogiatzakis Show, it's going to be interesting because we're going to be talking about the hottest topics in Winnipeg, Manitoba, stuff that's hitting the news, things we need to talk about, and things we need to fix. That's what the show is going to be all about. And it's going to be a little bit before we get things under control and get you live and make things work properly. But let's talk about those Winnipeg Jets before we get into the show today. So Jets off to a great start. 6 wins in a row. Jonathan Toews scoring his first NHL goal for the Winnipeg Jets the other day. And of course we have Scheifele, who's on fire with, I believe it's 6 or 7 points already in the year. The Winnipeg Jets are on fire to start off the year, and I'm looking forward to it. Love watching the Winnipeg Jets games. Watch them often, and look forward to every game. Looking forward to tomorrow night's game. So you kind of wonder how Toews is going to do with the Winnipeg Jets. And he was a captain of a hockey team that went all the way to the Stanley Cup, and now Winnipeg Jet, when he steps on the ice, he gets a great big standing ovation. So I'm happy that he's in Winnipeg, being a Winnipeg guy, and I think he's going to be a great part of the team. So looking forward to those Winnipeg Jets games. So Brad, thanks for
Making sure we're back on the show and running. I got it, buddy. I got it. We're only on Ask the Funeral Director tonight. We're not going to be on the Mike Vogiatzakis Facebook channel, but hopefully everybody's still seeing us somewhere, somehow. It looks like we've got people online you've been saying hi to. Debbie Kwan's here, Randy Medwid.
Gord wasn't number one today.
Gord wasn't, but that's okay because I didn't get him I probably sent the stuff to Steve Bage before
Randy
him.
Medwid.
I probably sent the link to Steve Bage before I sent it to Gord today, and
did you?
I told Gord he was first. I'm sorry, Gord. I might have lied.
Mike's on the highway again, heading back to Prince George, South Saskatchewan. So we were on the highway this week. Josh and I, we went out to Toronto to pick up our hearse.
That's a heck of a ride.
And it was
What's that,
quite
40 hours?
Yeah, 22 hours, I believe it was. I drove
One way.
Yeah, so we got a time to have some family time, Josh.
Can you imagine 22 hours in the car with Mike?
Yeah, Josh.
Every funeral story you can imagine from here to Toronto and back.
Josh got every lecture a dad could give a son all the way there. But anyways, funny thing happens. We stopped to get some food and in Thunder Bay. So we're in the hearse and we get out and there was food involved. So we went to get some food, come back, but there was some people that were probably on meth or,
strung out
right on the street there. So we got back in the car. The only door that doesn't lock in a hearse, oddly enough, is the back door where you place the casket in. So we can't lock that. So anyways,
you could think about taking that or robbing it, but I wouldn't.
We get into the car and Josh sits there and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the glove compartment just pops open.
Uh-oh.
Josh is like, Dad, did you just see that? And I'm like, yeah. Did you do that? I'm like, no.
That's why the guy sold you the car.
Josh slams it shut again, and then 2 seconds later, it opens again, and it does this 3 or 4 times, and then all of a sudden, I'm kind of laughing about it because I thought it was funny until my flashers came on. And Josh goes, "Well, Dad, there's probably been thousands of deceased people in this hearse," and I said, "Yeah, probably. I think it's haunted."
Could very well be.
So we get all the way, we go right across Ontario into Manitoba, and I get the car home safely. And then think about this. How does this happen? I go in the morning to start the car, and the battery's dead. Completely dead. On a new vehicle.
So the ghost has been opening the glove compartment, and then he burned out the battery.
And then I put a brand new battery in.
And how did that work out? Turned over?
Turned over.
All right.
And
nobody's driving it without nobody's driving it while you're not there, right?
I don't know what's going on with that, but it kind of freaked Josh out.
Walk in
all
the
the
garage.
way back, he's going, "What the heck?"
Walk in the garage and all the lights are going off like Christine. You remember that movie, right?
Kathy says, "Oh, Mike, I'm only 11 and a half hours from Toronto. Would have loved to have met you."
1.5.
1.5. Well, you should have came in and met me. We should have talked about that. I would have loved to met you, Kathy. Tickle, tickle. Man, this new show is going to be really exciting. We have so much to do on the show and so much to talk about. And, once we get it going, it's going to be one interesting show.
Well, it already is. We're already going. And it already is interesting because you're here.
And you're here.
I'm nowhere near you, my friend. You got the platform and you got the mic.
These conversations need to be had.
Yeah, I'm gonna challenge you on a few things as well along the way, which is gonna make things a little bit difficult for you at times. But it's not gonna be that we're here to find solutions or talk about solutions. I think we need to discuss the problems, and that's something that this show is gonna take note of. And to get to the solutions, the discussion on problems has to be forthcoming first.
Yeah, the thing is, a lot of people have been asking. That in the future I'm going to put my name down as a mayoral candidate in Winnipeg, Manitoba. So the biggest criticism you get right off the top is people.
Oh, sorry. Not
people
yet?
say, "What's the solution? What's your solution?" Well, I've already put out one solution, and that was on crime. And the justice system and the rotating doors of the court system and the catch and release program. And I've talked about that for a long time now. And of course, Scott Gillihan, the mayor, steps into my shoes and just takes over.
Copycat. Oh, my hand was supposed to be over here. Copycat.
And all of a sudden, he's talking about what I was talking about. So this is why you don't give out your platform. So when will I give out my platform? Well, that'll be in May of 2026 when you're actually a registered candidate, and nobody could steal your ideas because they're your ideas, and now you're, a candidate.
They're your solutions.
And your solutions, and I have lots of them. So, Brad.
Yeah, they're
too soon.
Yeah, too soon.
Dan Ross. Oh, finally managed to tune in this evening, folks.
Well, that's great, Dan. We're glad you found us because sometimes, well, Mike's hard to find.
Well, anyways, these conversations need to be talked about.
Yeah.
They're not only problems, but there is solutions, and we need to talk about them all the time. That's what the show is going to be about, because every day in the city I see the faces behind those struggles, and I know together we can make change. Together meaning you and I. We can make change, and somebody has to step out.
It comes down to talking, right? And that's where we get things started, by just saying hello to our viewers, and then they kind of take the conversations from there, don't they? They get to run with it after we kind of put the bug in their ear about some topics that need discussion. And there's a lot of people out there that I'll mention, because we've got people out there who just don't want to mention things. They're in a tough spot. They don't know who's like-minded, who's not like-minded, who feels the same way. Try to remember that this isn't necessarily always political. This is to do with the betterment of the city, and that becomes something more than just two people having a conversation about political issues. It's not left or right. It's not up or down. It's just right or wrong, and we need to get things right, and that takes a lot of focus, a lot of effort, and a lot of talent, in a sense. And that's where you come in. You've got to have that passion, that drive, that commitment, that energy that you buzz with every single day. This guy doesn't do alcohol. He doesn't do drugs. He's on fire every day just about getting up and going to do stuff today. And if you can find that within yourself and that passion, I can guarantee you somebody like Mike is going to get things done in this city, and we've been waiting for 50 years to see things get, dealt with. And it takes so much time to say that it should have been done by now, but we can talk about that as we go. But things just haven't materialized the way a city should have been properly run for many, many years, and it doesn't matter if it was Brian Bowman or whether it's Gillingham or even the guys that came before them. This is a long-standing thing of every 4 years. We seem to never get the guy that can get the job done, Mike.
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to get the job done. I have a passion for Winnipeg. I have a passion for...
Well, you should. You've been here all your life, and you didn't even move away. I moved away for 23 years and came back, and I'm still shocked to see what the infrastructure looks like here compared to what it should be.
I have a passion for helping people. I have a passion for making change. I love a challenge. I love to be challenged, and running for mayor is going to be one of the biggest challenges I face, but I'm looking forward to it. And you're right, I got so much energy. When I get out of bed, I think of one thing: get high on life. I don't need drugs. I don't need alcohol. I just need to get out there and do what needs to be done.
He only ate that cookie. He only ate that cookie one time on the show.
And it wasn't even a real cookie.
No, it wasn't. It was actually a chocolate chip cookie without the weed.
So you know what? It's that kind of stuff that's, here's what I look at, Brad.
Yeah.
Back in 1963, when my mom and dad immigrated to Canada, they immigrated to Canada and left a beautiful country in Greece. And they came here because Winnipeg was the place of opportunity.
That's right.
It was a place that they could raise their family. It was a place where they can have freedom of speech, and
it
of choice.
It allowed you to go left or right or up or down, because we're so close to the border. We're right in the middle of the country. You got to see the whole country if you live in Manitoba. That's the reality of it.
And my mom and dad became Canadian citizens, and they weren't handed anything. They came here, a lot of hard work, a lot of determination, a lot of motivation to raise their families, and teach their kids the proper way of walking through life, and teach us to be respectful, to have morals, and to respect other people. And that's something that I want to bring, because it's something my parents taught me, and I stand by it. And I love the fact that the odd time I got the old slap from Pops.
Well,
Mike, you better be good, huh? That was Dad. So, City Hall this time around would have a different kind of a person. I have a different personality, a great personality. I love to have fun. So it's not going to be one of these guys who's serious all the time. It's going to be a guy who's going to be like your next door neighbor. Firm when he needs to be firm, funny when he needs to be
Give
funny.
me my power tool back.
And I'm looking forward to all this kinds of stuff. So there's challenges we're going to face, but you're going to help us through it, because you could tell us that I could tell you that 10:30 last night, I got a text or a message on Messenger, and this lady left a post on my Facebook page today saying, "I'm surprised that Mike Vogiatzakis actually returned my message at 10:30 at night."
That's right.
That's nothing new. That's who I am. I sincerely care about people. And I sincerely want to make change, and it's not a robotic answer. And she said to me, "Well, maybe it was a robotic message or a mechanical message that you send out to everyone. Be assured, the message that I send out to you when you send me a message will be from my heart."
Did you see that movie 8 Mile with Eminem in it?
Yes.
You know how he flips the script?
Yes.
We should tell everybody that, well, no, I'll wait. We'll bring that up later. I got something really good for you later, though, but it's quite interesting. Okay, go ahead. We got to talk about today's article, don't we? That's an article.
So
that
today's
came
article in
the one that came out in the Sun, yeah.
Marty Gold.
I was going to mention plagiarism, but when you get credit and they actually mention your name in quotations and say they quoted you, that's not really plagiarism. He's not giving you credit,
I'm
right?
honored that somebody would do that. Actually.
Yeah, I would be too.
Use my name as much as you want. I mean, there's nothing bad to say. About
No,
it.
that's right. That's right.
Marty Gold picked up on one of my Facebook posts, and he brought it to the Winnipeg Sun. And
He elaborated on it, and he did a story.
He actually sent me a message today saying, "Hey, I quoted you in my column today." So Brad's going to go to that column with the Winnipeg Sun. And if you don't subscribe to the Winnipeg Sun, you should. Kevin Klein has done a great job bringing in the Sun alive. And he's got guys like Marty Gold on there. And he's got other people that matter in this city. And they put together a great paper. So if you're not part of it, you should. And if you want to find real truth, real answers, the Winnipeg Sun, Kevin Klein and his team there do a great job doing that.
Absolutely, they do. I'm just trying to line up something here for us in a second. Mike, keep talking. You got something to do there.
There's so much to talk about.
do that.
Other calls that I'm getting on a daily basis is transit.
Transit.
People are
buses.
frustrated with the transit system. As a matter of fact,
Yep.
outside Grace Hospital, just off Portage Avenue, there's a clinic where people have surgeries and all kinds of things and need to get on the bus. They've taken the bus stop away from there. And it breaks my heart that people are going to have to walk 4 blocks, 3 blocks, 2 blocks, whatever it is, in the cold dents of winter. And Winnipeg has worse winters in Canada, probably. 40 somewhat below.
Yep.
And people who are handicapped, people who are sick, people who are elderly, people who are struggling are going to struggle more because they have to walk in this cold weather to get on a bus. And why would they play with the bus system in the first place? It was working. It was good for people. People were used to it, and all of a sudden, boom, here we go. We change it. Just like that.
Absolutely, it's something that needs to be dealt with. They've extended the hours, which is something I think is a great first step. And I hope that they say that they're listening to the public, and I kind of hope that they are. But you can never just tell about transit, right? They do some strange things sometimes that make you go,
And people ask, too, what was the reason behind the change? What is the reason behind the change? Why did they change it?
Well, I know.
And when I was in Edmonton, I was talking with a transit supervisor in Edmonton, and we were talking about the electric buses that they have in Edmonton. And guess what they're doing?
What?
The majority of them sitting there,
Parked,
because they're
right.
useless. And yet we've spent millions and millions of dollars on these electric buses right here in Manitoba, where we have a place that builds buses, by the way. We should be the capital of buses in Manitoba, doing it the right way.
Absolutely.
But it's the opposite.
Kevin Klein at the Winnipeg Sun ties in the buses to a lot of articles along with Marty Gold, and you can find some information and interesting articles from those guys along the way. So let's jump right into that article like you wanted me to, Mike, here. It's been a tough haul for Mayor Scott Gillingham during his first term with homelessness and all the encampments that are going on. It would seem as though it's like at an all-time high now. Would you agree, Mike?
I would 100% agree.
Okay, so then the incidents of crime and public disorder become widespread. It really takes its toll on the city itself and the citizens. This public disorder, we got to try to find some reprieve is what I want to say. Of course, Kevin says find solace in the small victories that have emerged. One has been happily noticed by transit riders. So you were talking about transit a minute ago, but the crackdown on fare jumpers, sometimes by screening people at the stop before they board. There's other times by teams hopping onto the escort scofflaws of the bus, has reduced the number of disruptive individuals, creating a bad experience for paying customers. There's still some work, obviously, in getting folks to get on with paying, because there's some that won't pay. But according to the Sun readers, it's not nearly as common as in past years, and they appreciate the commitment to improving the transit system. But that's kind of like only one part of the story, because there's a lot more that's also happening along the way. But that success hasn't been duplicated for the most part on the streets and avenues of the city, where every removal of encampment, from Central Park on, dozens of more tents have gone up in empty lots, parks, and riverbank areas without any resistance from the city at all. Instead, the neighbors, it's the neighbors, such as those in Osborne Village, who suffer the consequences of the survival crimes that result. It's an ongoing problem, and the mayor says that Wab Canoe, Premier, and City Councilor Cindy Gilroy were among the recipients of an email September 30th from a major real estate representative in Fort Rouge pleading for relief. And I quote, "Over the past several years, we've watched public spaces funded and maintained by law-abiding taxpayers, become safe. Incidents of theft from businesses, break-ins to homes and vehicles, and muggings on the street are now far too common. Personally, I find it increasingly difficult to even take my dog for a morning walk without being concerned for my safety." And that's just not in that area. It's not just a North Main problem, and it's not just off of Main Street problem. And I don't even know what area is that. I guess that would be kind of like where Hespler is.
Yeah. I mean, is any area safe in Winnipeg right now?
Well, I feel pretty safe in my neighborhood at this point, but that's only because I don't think it's come out this far. But that can happen at any time. I mean, transit system's getting around again, and they're dropping them off.
So what do you think? Just before you continue reading the story, what's your take on? There's a guy who's hungry. He's homeless. He just needs to get on a bus to get from point A to point B. Do we toss those people in the streets and say, sorry, you can't get on the bus, you don't deserve to be here because they don't have the funds to get on the bus? I think if a person's not causing trouble, he just wants to get on the bus, maybe to get out of the cold, or maybe to get back home or into an area where he wants to be. He's, a calm personality that just wants to ride. I think it's wrong to toss those people off the bus and have people standing there. You don't have money, you can't get on the bus. I remember when I was young, I'll never forget this, in the midst of a storm, and we were walking, and I remember the bus driver was kind enough to pull beside us and said, "Come on the bus." And we said, "We got no money to get on the bus." And the bus driver said, No charge, just get on the bus. And, he took us 3 blocks that we would have had to walk.
He did the right thing
To get us home. And what's wrong with being compassionate and caring? And I understand there's some people that are, tweaked out on drugs and will cause problems. And it's hard to distinguish between the two.
It is.
On what is right or wrong. But at the same time, I think some people just can't afford to get on the bus these days.
100%. They're spending it on all kinds of other things. I mean, gas jumped yesterday from $1.19 to $1.31 today.
Isn't that crazy?
How did that happen?
That is overnight. That is.
Yeah. Okay, so you want me to continue with this story, because I think we got the gist of it.
I think you got the gist of the story. Basically,
well, people can look it up themselves in the Winnipeg Sun. It was on the front page earlier today.
Yeah, and what's funny is I did a story that I want to talk about the encampments at Higgins in Maine.
Sure.
And I talked about, walking down Portage Avenue or Main Street. And what happened last week is limousine was involved. And
Right.
people criticized it like crazy. And what they didn't understand was, in that limousine driving down, so what we did is we picked up a family from the airport. And we took them down Portage and then down Main Street. When we got down Main Street, it was so terrifying for them to see what was going on Main Street. The tents, the shopping carts full of garbage graffiti and garbage everywhere, beggars on the streets, pretty much knocking on the limousine door. What people didn't know when they were criticizing was in that family, in that limousine was a grieving family that lost a loved one to a drug overdose right here in Winnipeg. And they were on the way to the funeral home to bury that young man.
That's a
So
sad
sometimes
story.
you got to read before you judge, because every situation is different. You know, it wasn't a limousine cruising down the street and pointing at people going, "Oh my God, look at those homeless people," you know? So when I say we need to, I want to talk about this because I think it's important. When I say we need to clean up our city, I'm not putting down people who are homeless. I'm saying the opposite. Those standing up for homeless should be demanding better, because living on the streets isn't compassion, it's neglect. Every person deserves dignity, safety, and a chance to rebuild their life. We need long-term, properly funded rehabs and treatment centers for mental health and addiction, not short-term fixes or political photo ops.
That's right.
These are people with stories, families, and that have broken hearts who deserve more than a tent and a sleeping bag on a frozen street corner. And when I drive by and I see that, it breaks my heart, because I think it's just wrong. We can't keep going down the same hill of destruction by building so-called safe consumption sites
There's nothing safe about them, Mike.
or sending vans out to give addicts more drugs. There's a van called the Sunshine something that actually goes, and a lot of people don't know this, they actually go on Main Street and they hand out drugs to people. And how's that fixing the problem? If I had a son who was an addict, I would be furious that some identity is going down there and giving my son drugs. And instead of helping him, instead of making things better, they're making it worse. That's not compassion.
But there is compassion and protection, and that's, I think, what they're there for. They have the Narcan. They're able to save somebody's life if they do overdose. And in this day and age, with that much fentanyl and meth on the street, I'm glad that they're there for that reason
But I'm
alone.
not talking about that,
But
Brian.
but you start giving away drugs to people to cure their quench.
Yeah.
That's where we have a problem. I agree.
And that's not going to happen
That's
under
not going to
my
solve the
watch.
problem. The problem is mental health again,
It's
right?
not compassion.
No, it's not.
That's surrender.
That's right.
And we need to get back to the root of the problem and fix it, not keep putting bandages on open wounds.
That's right.
Addiction is a cry for help, not a license to die.
This government has no issue, no reason or want to try to fix this problem, Mike, and that's why they keep expanding on the drug scene in British Columbia, for example. And if you look at East Hastings, it's sickening and disgusting what's going on there.
Real help means treatment, rehab, counseling, and
Correct.
long-term support, not enabling more harm. And if you think for a minute that City Hall and the Premier's office can't fix this, you're wrong. They
Yeah.
just choose not to.
And you'll be able to if you make it into power. I mean, you have solutions that you've thought of, and again, I don't want to spoil the fun, but there's things there that you know need to be accounted for, and one of them is mental health.
Yeah.
What other things are there that need to be
Well,
accounted
I
for?
mean, there's mental health, there's addiction, there's poverty. There's so much that's causing the
Getting them
violence
back on
in
their
our
feet
streets.
takes
Getting
what
them back
now?
on their feet, yeah. It takes care and compassion. See, we don't want to just knock these people down, go in and with a bulldozer knock down their tents. What we want to do is get people a safe place to live, a place where they have food on their table. Listen, every person has a story. They just didn't wake up homeless. They just didn't wake up deciding that their life was going to be that way.
No, that's right.
You know, they spent $50 million was spent on the reopening of an intersection at Portage, Maine, and the funding the Graham Avenue project between Carlton and Gary Streets, while countless Winnipeggers are sleeping in doorways and struggle to survive. How many lives could have we saved if we put back on track that money that we spend on Portage and Maine? We spend millions of your tax dollars foolishly, while families and small businesses struggle to survive. And yes, the Liberal government must go. There's no doubt about that in my mind. They continue to give away millions of your hard-earned tax dollars while Canadians suffer.
Yep.
It's time for real change. So if we go to the polls this time round, because there's talk of another election.
Well, he made an announcement tonight at 7:30. I didn't see it. Did you?
No, I didn't see it, so I don't know.
He was going to talk. He was going to talk about his big overspending $21 billion
Listen,
$21 billion
as far as
budget.
I'm concerned, Carney is useless and probably more useless than Trudeau is.
Well,
it's
no,
sad to say that.
Carney's playing the game the way the WEF and
The
the
World
UN
Economic
wants.
Forum has got these guys as strings of a puppet.
Broke my bell over that, hitting it so hard.
And it's just wrong because, people should come first. Canadians should becoming the priority here.
That's
And
correct.
that's not what's happening. And we're pushing Canadians aside, giving away billions of dollars to other countries. And if we wouldn't do this, we wouldn't have a problem on our streets. And people would have a safe place to be. And then this has to be talked about. I'm sorry.
Are you going to do it?
The immigrants coming in to our country are being given all kinds of money. Money for food, money for hotels, money to buy clothing, money to live, money to survive, money for each child that they have. And we're going to talk about those numbers because I'm going to bring in somebody who's going to talk about the numbers and the amount of money that people are getting who works for the government and is soon to retire and wants to
Yeah,
spill the beans.
we haven't told anybody that, but we've got some great special guests coming up. Somebody special next week that we'll tell you about towards the end of the show. And then
Yeah.
we've even got somebody that wants to come in and sit down and tell their story about emergency services when she had to, get involved there because of her husband's situation. And, she's going to be able to present a side of a story that will blow your mind, period.
We also need to end the failed catch and release program that puts dangerous offenders back on our streets. There must be real consequences for crimes committed. My younger brother, Kyriakis, was murdered because the careless liberal government agenda and the revolving door justice system. Who talked about that first? That was me. How many more lives need to be destroyed before someone takes responsibility? We need to stop uncontrolled immigration and start focusing on Canadians. Refugees are receiving more money and support than hardworking Canadians who could barely afford to feed their families, while low-income families struggle to make ends meet. Our own citizens are being left behind, Brad. We need to rebuild the core of Winnipeg. Neighborhoods that are falling apart, we need to invest them in affordable housing so families have a place and a home to live. I'm talking about affordable housing.
Affordable housing, Brookfield?
Talking about affordable housing.
Mark Carney
that's
style?
Affordable. Instead of forcing small businesses to close their doors, City Hall should be encouraging and supporting them because small business owners keep people employed, feed families, and are the heart of every community.
Got to take care of Canadians first, folks.
I'm not a politician, and I'm not the mayor, but I am the voice for many who are thinking what I'm saying.
There are a lot of businesses out there doing the TFP program or TFW program.
Brad, I speak from experience, from the front lines, and from my heart. If ever I became mayor, one thing is for certain. People will always come first. You see, we need real leadership that focuses on prevention, care, rebuilding lives, and strengthening neighborhoods. Not headlines, not ribbon cutting. We need to stop comparing ourselves to other cities. We are Winnipeg, and we can and we must be better. It's funny how some people confuse criticism with caring. But when you love your city, you fight for it. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Mike, you wrote an article this week on your Facebook page talking about Winnipeg having the slowest response time. If you're going to go that fast, I can't keep up, okay?
Oh, sorry.
Having the slowest response time for fire and paramedics in Canada. So I guess you want to try to get into that.
Yeah, I just want to talk about hope we have no emergencies in Winnipeg, because right now Winnipeg and Fire Paramedic Services has the longest response times in Canada. Average response time in Winnipeg is 8 to 20 minutes. But before I get into that, you've probably heard the story, but I'll share it again. My father-in-law fell on his front lawn, 93 years old. We didn't know what his injuries were at the time. He broke his hip, and he waited on his lawn for 6 hours. This isn't a joke. This is for real. They were told when they phoned emergency it would be a 3-hour wait.
Mm-hmm.
In 3 hours, emergency phoned back and said, we can't get anyone there. Our ambulances are busy. It's not a priority. He's going to have to wait another 3 hours. So a 93-year-old man lay on his lawn or sat on his lawn for 6 hours before he got help. That's terrible.
Disgusting.
It's disgusting. The national average across Canada is 6 to 38
6
seconds.
minutes and 38
Yeah.
seconds. Yeah.
In Winnipeg, it's 8 minutes, 20 seconds.
National average is 6 minutes and 38 seconds too, but we're way over it.
And you know what? Every second counts. When someone's having a heart attack, a stroke, or a life-threatening emergency, those extra minutes can mean the difference between life and death. I have a plan to make 911 fire and paramedics the top priority, cutting response times, getting paramedics back on the road faster, ensuring every call gets urgent care it deserves. We will move Winnipeg from the slowest to the fastest in Canada, because every life matters and every second counts.
So, safe consumption sites are always a touchy subject. You kind of talked about it a few minutes ago and brought it up. But look, the reality is that people are dying, and they're dying not only because they've done too many drugs, they're dying as well because they don't have access to the services that they
Let's
need.
hold off on that for 1 sec.
Okay.
Let's talk about, since we're on emergency response times, why don't we bring up the emergency picture that we have and talk to people, and this is the most basic thing you could ever think of, right? So we got
Oh, the driver's test stuff with emergency vehicles. Yes, that picture. Yes, I know the one.
I want to talk to you about this because it's funny, and you'll laugh about it too, because you've seen it happen, and many people have seen it happen. You're kind of going, what are they doing? So somebody's having a heart attack. Somebody could have been stabbed or shot. It could be your mom or dad who's in that emergency, and you hear a fire truck or a paramedic coming down the street. They're behind you, and a lot of people don't know what to do. Brad,
True
what
story.
do you do? It's on your driver's test. Have you seen what happens on the streets? So the ambulance is behind you. They're honking their horn. They got their sirens going. The police car, fire truck, whatever it may be, and most people they panic
Yeah. What do I do now?
and they freeze. And I got a funny feeling that a lot of the people that are taking their driver's test these days are not learning the basics of driving. You know, the basics of driving is exactly what it says in the sign. When an emergency vehicle's behind you, move right and stop. It could save a life.
When they take those driver's tests, if they just maybe drove through St. James, they might be able to actually have a vehicle, emergency vehicle coming up behind them when they're doing those road tests and even just driver training. But yeah, people do freak out as soon as they hear that siren coming. Some people don't even know it's coming because they got the radio too damn loud, right? Like, let's face it, that's a problem too.
And you know what? I'm surprised that MPI, because it causes accidents, I'm
That's
surprised
right,
MPI
yeah.
or fire, paramedics, police in tune with each other are not making commercials about this. Get out of the emergency vehicle's way. It's common sense. And then I see this all the time. Michelle says it's the newcomers. You took the words right out of my mouth. Must have been while you were kissing me. And
It's a singing show now. There we go.
oh man,
Glad you were on by yourself for that point.
But you know, but it's true. And then you see what other people do is they see an ambulance or police car, and it's got a clear path now. So what do? They get behind it, and they start racing behind that ambulance or fire truck to get wherever they're going.
I've done that, but I'm a
quicker.
journalist. I was just trying to follow it. I was chasing it. You were probably chasing it too, being a funeral director.
Oh yeah, well hey,
Do you do that?
let's talk about funeral directors, and let's talk about
Hey, I know your loved one just died. I mean, like minutes ago, but hey, I'm here. I saw the ambulance coming your way. I thought I'd stop in.
oh man, let's talk.
You guys
about,
need a casket?
Let's talk about funeral directors and something about on the same topic. When you see purple lights and white flashing, and you see a lead car, which was a black car, and a limousine,
Followed by a limo,
and
two
a hearse.
limos, and a hearse.
That means it's
Yeah.
a funeral procession, folks. And funeral processions have the right of way, meaning that
Special powers.
we could go through red lights and we can do some illegal things because it's somebody's last ride, and under the Highway Traffic Act, it allows us to do things like go through red lights where everybody needs to stop for us, almost like an emergency vehicle, and let us go through, not give us the finger or swear at us or hang your ass out of the window and show us your hairy bum. Because all those things happen when you're in, we talked about the people that are homeless, the encampments. And Brad, you've been with me when you drive a hearse.
Yeah, so
And I'm going to let you
one of the things that I found very unique and quite interesting is I was driving the hearse one day down Main Street, headed off of obviously the Backman Turner Overdrive. That's such a cool name for that overpass. I love it. And as I'm coming down onto Main Street in the hearse, you know, you start to see quite a bit of change from where you were to where you are now. And having said that, I got down into the seedy part, and I was driving along, and I'm in the middle lane, and you know, I'm looking around because we're stuck at a red light, and I'm watching, and I'm stunned. I'm stunned, and I'm stunned only for one reason, and that's because everybody else is standing there stunned looking at me. And they're not looking at me per se, they're looking at the hearse. And it was all these homeless people who sat there, stopped in their tracks, looked at that hearse.
Hands by their hearts.
Gave it the respect that it deserved
Hats
on the
off
way
their
by.
heads.
Absolutely. And I was in shock. I thought they had more respect than the drivers out there, other citizens on the street when they see us going by. It was concerning because all I kept thinking was, what are they thinking? Are they thinking that's my future ride, or are they thinking I'll never even get that ride?
I'm thinking they're just respectful people who've gone through a hard time, and don't judge somebody by the book. You know, read all the pages inside. A lot of these people were maybe successful people, maybe educated people who just ran into bad times, and that can happen to you and I tomorrow. We need to learn to respect people,
Take care of one of another.
Take care of each other, and just be there for that person. Sometimes, you know, even getting a simple coffee and sitting beside a person, which I've done, and ask about their life and how they got where they've got, and sometimes, you know, ask if they need help, how they can get back on their feet. And there's so many people out there who want to get back on their feet. The problem is, you know, if you don't have an address, you can't get a check from social assistance. You can't go for a job interview because
you're not clean.
You haven't showered, you don't have nice clothing on, and it puts those people on hold. And that's why we need to come up with a program. And again, I don't want to reveal my things, but we need to come up with a program where we can get these people clean, shaved, maybe a haircut.
I'm going to be honest with you. In the summertime, you could have outdoor showers going instead of having them run to the kids' splash pad and trying to get a shower that way. There's other options that this city could have been providing all the way along, and that's some of the solutions that I know you're going to take care of as we move forward, Mike, and that's something that I'm really proud of being a part with you on. You know, Scott Gillingham in council, you think you're treating Mike like a criminal every time he speaks out, you know. You're mistaken. He's far from that, and for you to label anybody like that, that just shows your character, pal.
You know, they've. I just got to continue where you left off. You know, Scott, I got to tell you something. Scott Gillingham, our mayor, you have only fueled the fire inside me, and it's burning hotter than ever. Thousands of businesses across the city have cameras installed without permits for simple plug-and-play systems. Yet you call mine a construction project. Meanwhile, homeowners can install the same equipment without question. Is that not hypocrisy? Plain and simple, Brad?
Well, 100% it's hypocrisy. There's no question about that. And, you know, he seems to play the double standards, and he's doing this to you because he thinks he can get away with it. And obviously you set things in motion to say, hey, I'm going to sit in that chair one day. And he doesn't like that very much. I can't blame him. If I was the mayor now and I knew you were coming, I'd say the same damn thing. But the reality is,
you know, all we're asking for...
If I knew I wasn't doing a good job, I'd make room for that chair for you, and you could come and take it and sit down and get the job done. Because I tell you what, you can't be a mayor and be a sham.
You know, if the mayor was doing a good job, and if he hadn't sat around for 3 years doing absolutely nothing except spending money foolishly, Portage and Main, that could have waited. We could have taken care of many problems. We could have put money where money should have been put. That's people first. You know, he shut down streets and painted them, and the paint fell off the streets a short time later. Took down statues that mattered, and he's got them sitting in storage where they should be in a cemetery or somewhere. I'm talking about the statue that was at Portage and Main at one time.
Is Bobby Hull statue still up?
I don't even know about that.
How about, what's the other guy's name? Solani. Timu.
All we're asking for is fair and equal treatment for all businesses who are simply trying to protect their customers, their staff, and their property. and a city where crime is completely out of control. You and your council have become a symbol of corruption, control, destroying the city one decision at a time. I want you to know, I'm just getting started. So if you think that you're putting a roadblock in my way by sending your enforcement officers down to harass me,
It's not going to happen.
not happening. Not afraid.
Exactly right, Mike.
We're bringing a guy on the show next week, who's been on the streets, who's been an addict, who struggled for many years, and he's going to be proof that change can be made, and we can help these people. And the safe consumption sites are a bad idea, but Brad, before I go and talk about what I want to talk about, you've lived safe consumption sites.
Not in them.
No, but
Not in them. I never spent a minute in them, but I've been on the outside and I've seen what happens outside.
so tell me this before you get into it.
Sure.
So not only have they announced Gillingham and our premier safe consumption sites, but also get this, and this is funny, 72-hour treatments.
Yeah.
So they feel that they're going to get somebody fixed. What's your tell me your top.
Okay, so with that part of it, you're going to basically send them into confinement. What do you want to call that? It's not jail. It's being withheld or being held without your permission, I'm sure.
Yeah.
At which point, you got to consider the fact that once you're held against your will, things start to manipulating your brain, meaning for somebody who's got a meth or a heroin problem or a fentanyl problem, these individuals will ultimately lose their mind in that 72 hours. First off, because they don't have access to the drugs that they need. Second off, because the system isn't going to give them any kind of drugs to combat that. Number three, there's no mental health official that's going to help them through any kind of situation because you can't do it in 72 hours. So what they're realistically doing is they're setting a person up to be that has a major drug problem, and they're going to take them into incarceration. In 72 hours, they're going to release them to the public. That individual is going to be going through such a stage of withdrawal. The crime factor rises 1,000 times in that individual alone. Second of all, that individual's main focus is to go find more drugs and get a fix. And I don't know that we need tons and tons of people out there in that kind of a state. Some of them are already in that state wondering where they're getting their next fix from. But the reality here is that after 72 hours, their brain, because of the lack of chemicals that they have been involved with, will send them into really a detox state. And that doesn't last for 72 hours. That's like weeks and months and even some years for some.
Well, if you think Winnipeg's crime, drug, and homeless problems are bad now, wait until so-called safe consumption sites are open. There is nothing safe about them. These sites have failed right across Canada.
They have.
Vancouver's a perfect example, with more overdoses, more break-and-enters, more violence, and more people struggling on the streets than ever.
Listen, you say Vancouver is a great example. I know Vancouver is an example, but that example...
Hastings Street.
Yeah, that example hasn't been stopped yet or fixed. What I want to discuss with you now is something that, Lethbridge, Alberta, and I lived there, been there, done that, and during my time there, and right up until we left, we knew the safe consumption site was moving into our area or into town, and I said to my wife, we're going to have to take the kids and get out of here because I don't want my kids around that. It's the size of Brandon, and everybody knows about it, and these kids are looking for something to do on a Friday and Saturday night, and they can't get into the bar at 17. So what do? They go to the safe consumption site. They'll hang out down there. The tunes are cranked up in there. They got their own little booths. Some of them had their own private rooms. And they had a nurse sitting in there with them. They were allowed to do whatever they wanted in that room, and the nurse would just sit back and watch. But the reality here is we set up cameras outside the safe consumption site in Lethbridge. We went into some businesses, and we put in mirrored windows so that we could shoot through the windows so that they didn't know we were there because they don't want to be filmed. But in the alley behind the safe consumption site, pregnant women with a baby in the carriage and performing sexual acts to get more drugs, beatings, robbings, stabbings, shootings, all for drugs. The crime rate in the local area for the businesses went through the roof. We saw so many different businesses that had broken windows, busted into, robbed during the daytime. people defecating on the front doorsteps going into the business, people wasting skin basically sitting there and taking up space on these people's doorsteps, not allowing customers to come in. Customers are afraid to even go in that gentleman's business because you go out and you try to remove them as a business owner and they go nowhere. They don't even want to move, Mike. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of problems that come with a safe consumption site. And one of the things that I haven't touched on was that the corruption inside the safe consumption site, and again, getting inside that facility, it came down to FOIA requests, and we did the work. We did the homework to get that exposed. And we're talking a $4 million fraudulent claim that went out against this lady who was running the facility. She took her family, and like we're talking the grandparents, her mom and dad, she took her kids. They all went on a great big tour of God. They went to Rome, they went to to see the Pope, they went everywhere. Okay, they went to Italy, and they did a tour of all of the, I guess, worldly God Christian things. And the expense on that was massive, but it was all done through government funded money, and she had extorted it, and that leads to questions along the way about the amounts of money coming in. We're not talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking about millions of dollars coming from the feds and the province to put this facility in place. And what ends up happening at the end of the day is a lot of that money doesn't make it into the hands of the people that need that help. It ends up in the pockets of the people that are running the facilities. They say that the nurses are there to provide the Narcan and provide a safe facility, and they say they were all working for free. But why do they need $10 million to run the facility, or 20 or 30? It doesn't make sense. I can't understand where the expenses
it's all
went.
about corruption.
It is. It is.
Money is being spent that does not need to be spent. Money is being put in people's pockets.
Yeah.
The deals behind closed doors, and we've seen that right here in Winnipeg with former mayors who've got caught with their hands in their pockets.
Absolutely.
You know, instead of fixing addiction, these sites are feeding it. Instead of saving communities, they're really destroying them. Winnipeg does not need another failed social experiment.
Well, that's exactly what it'll turn into, Mike. It starts out as something great. It's wonderful, but the Liberals and the NDP are going to make it sound like that no matter what. But the reality here,
is we need treatment, recovery, and accountability.
Correct. And look, you can give them the treatment, but you got to get them into a place where they can feel as though they've conquered their situation, and that comes from housing, money, making sure that they can get a fresh start.
Exactly.
Stay clean, have the right access to the mental facilities that they need to get to, because it doesn't just end once you give somebody a home and some money. It doesn't end when you give them money either. You got to get them into those mental patient facilities or the care facilities that are going to provide that help.
I think this says it all. If you truly cared about the city and its people, you would stop the plan before it starts.
100%. 100%. And you know, the way to do that is to start challenging the city and the mayor and other individuals for...
You know what I say? Try building a safe consumption site in your neighborhood, Scott Gillingham.
Yeah.
Or Wob Canoe.
Yep.
And then after you have it in your neighborhood, tell us what it feels like.
We'll park it right up there on Osborne by Wob's office there. I drove by it earlier today, and I shook my head.
Instead, they should be standing up for Winnipeg, protecting our families, neighborhoods, and our future. Say no to safe consumption sites.
Please say no, please.
Share this with people, and your opinion matters.
Look, we're not saying that they don't get the help that they need. We're not saying we're going to keep them from getting the drugs that they need if they need those drugs. What we're suggesting is that we don't just give them more drugs and throw them back on the street. We don't give them 72 hours what the province is saying is going to be helpful, when reality is it's going to cause even a bigger concern and problem.
And I'm letting Brad speak on a lot of this.
You're right, because I'm very knowledgeable about this.
And not only that, I do not want to release my platform yet. And my platform is very powerful, and it speaks about these topics.
Damn right it does.
And I will release my platform, and I can guarantee you one thing. The things that I will do will go down in history. They will always be remembered. Some of the changes that we're going to make right here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, cities across Canada will follow what we are doing. We will become a clean city, a safe city where you will be proud.
You know, we haven't even touched on budgeting yet, but if we touch on budgeting, we see where the waste is, much like, let's call it the Winnipeg Doge. And imagine what would happen if you did the Winnipeg Doge on City Hall, and how much funds are being allocated in a way that is wasteful, and how much we could actually accomplish with our homeless, our veterans, and others that need help.
You look at these slowing curbs that they put down alone. The money that they've spent
Yeah,
on
that-
foolish projects.
That wasn't our money, taxpayers' money. That all came from the WEF and the World Economic Forum. And
Wherever it
all.
came from, that money could have went to helping families.
Well, it could have, but they made a deal and they signed
you
off
know,
on
Brad,
it.
that it's so bad out there that kids go to school hungry. Children go to school hungry. There's actually families that have children who go to school hungry. And to me, that's heartbreaking. That a kid has to go to school and try to learn, and try to concentrate, and be part of the team when he hasn't eaten that morning. And then lunchtime rolls around, and that poor little guy doesn't have lunch either, while he's watching all his buddies eat their food. And that should never happen in a province like Manitoba. Every child deserves to be treated fairly. Every child deserves a safe neighborhood and deserves to have food on their table. Nobody should go hungry, and nobody should live in fear. And those are the things that need to happen in the city. What we need to do is go back to the basics.
Those are the things that are happening in the city. The solutions, like he said, are coming down the road. It's not just going to be discussed right here, right now. Mike has to get his platform off the ground, and that happens the day he gets to fill out all the paperwork to be actually a mayoral candidate. And that's going to take a little bit longer. So if you're looking for Mike to talk about the solutions, that's coming. Right now, Mike has a definite plan in mind for the solution aspect of things. No question. I've talked to him several times about it. But we need to discuss the issues of the problems. We need to get people in the city talking about the problems so that when we present our platform of, well, your platform, sorry, man, I'm not part of that.
Man,
but
you're going to be with me for the ride. But the thing is, listen, if you don't talk about what's broken, how can you fix it?
That's the point, right? That's
Simple.
exactly it.
Simple math. Well, this is a new edition of
That was a show. I was going to say ask the funeral
of
director,
the Mike
but it's not.
Vogiatzakis Show. Thank you for your patience tonight. We will get things on the proper platforms. We will have a proper Facebook page and a page where you can find
Well,
us.
we
without
do have
searching.
that, so people can go and still check out our Facebook page right now. But there's not a lot on there. Mike will start posting there tomorrow, and we'll get
And it'll
some
be
action
part of
going.
it'll be part of my
Yeah.
Facebook page anyway. So there's lots there to see. But as always, thanks for tuning in. God bless you and your families. Take care of yourselves and each other.
Good night,
Thanks, Brad.
everybody. Thanks, Mike.